everybody, welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth, and today we're going to be making the Martha Washington Star quilt block. So this is a fun star block. It has this little pinwheel in the middle inside of a Sawtooth Star. And so if you're following along with the Twinkle Sampler quilt along, this is our 9th star block that we're doing. And this is probably one of the most complex blocks that we're doing, but I know you can do it. It's still made with simple shapes, and if you just take it one step at a time, you won't have any problems. If you want more information about the quilt along, you can follow along below, or if you just want to make a quilt with only this block, that's great too. So to make this block, you are going to need 4 3.5-inch squares of background fabric. Now, often in quilts, the background fabric is light and the feature fabric is dark. But in this situation, I'm using a dark background fabric and lighter feature fabric, because you can switch it up however you want. It's just easier to see your design if there is contrast between the background and the main color. If they're too close in color or in value, then it's going to be harder to see your design. So you'll probably want a bit of contrast. Then you're going to need 4 flying geese units with the main triangle as your background fabric and the wings as the feature fabric. And if you're doing the Twinkle Star quilt along, this is your fabric 1 that is used for this. Now, these flying geese units are going to be 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches because they finish in your quilt as 3 inches by 6 inches. So you can do these flying geese however you want to do them. I recommend for this one that you do the 4 at a time method, because you do need 4 and you can do them all at once, and that's a good method. So you can check the video below for a full tutorial of how to make these units, or you can make them in whatever other method you have if you have a favorite method for doing flying geese. But I would recommend for this block 4 at a time. Then you're also going to need 4 3.5-inch square split half square triangles. So a split half square triangle is made with 1 larger triangle and 2 smaller triangles. The large triangle and one of the smaller triangle are going to be background fabric, and the smaller triangle is with the feature fabric. In the Twinkle Star quilt along, this is your fabric 2 that is used for this. So split half square triangles can be made a number of different ways. I recommend if you're only making one block, then you'll probably want to do the obvious method where you just cut triangles and sew them together. You can see a tutorial below for how to do that. However, there is a method you can use to make 4 of these units at a time. The problem with that is that the 2 of the units will be mirror images of the other ones. So that's fine. If that doesn't bother you, that's fine. Or if you're doing like I am doing and you're going to make 2 Martha Washington blocks, use the 4 at a time twice, you'll end up with 2 sets of 4 identical ones. So I'll show you what I mean on this one. You can see here's the one quilt with these split half square triangle units. This split half square triangle unit, you can see, is a mirror image of that one. So if I was going to put this one in the block, you can see that the seams are a little bit different. Now, from a distance, you probably won't be able to tell, and so you might not care. You might just use 4 at a time and put them in with the mirror image and then have that fine. If you're really quilt OCD and you want all the seams to be coming out of the center the same way, then use a different method. So it's up to you, but either the 4 at a time method or the obvious method where you just cut triangles and sew them together, either one of those will be fine. You want these to be 3.5 inches square because in the block, they're going to be 3 inches square. So we're going to lay them out here, and the split half square triangle units go in the middle to make this little pinwheel. Then the flying geese go on the edges, north, south, east, and west. And the solid background squares go in the corners. So once you have all the pieces made and lay them out, the first thing that we're going to do is assemble this pinwheel in the middle. So we're just going to stitch these together in pairs. So I'll fold them over, and then take them to the sewing machine, remembering that this is the seam I'm going to stitch. If you have a lot, or if you're worried that you might get them twisted around, then feel free to just put a pin in that side to remember that this is what you're going to do. But I'm pretty sure I can remember this since I only have 2 and my sewing machine's right there. So I'm going to go take these to the sewing machine and stitch them. So we're going to stitch these together with a 1/4 inch seam, and take the time before any project just to make sure you have an accurate 1/4 inch seam. Don't rely on a 1/4 inch foot. Check each time, because changing your needle, your weight of your thread, and your fabric, that can even make a difference. So I've checked this, and I put a little marker here to guide my stitches so that I'll have my accurate 1/4 inch seam. So here's our 2 pieces that we've pieced together. Now we're going to take them and press them. Now to press these, I'm going to lay them with the large background square face up. Press it with an up and down press to set the seams. Then we're going to open and press that open. And you want to use your iron with an up and down motion, not like a back and forth train motion. Now the reason why I pressed that seam open, which I would do even if the background color was a lighter color, I would do that because this side has 1 seam which has a lot of fabric bulk. This side has 2 seams with a lot of fabric bulk. So that just helps eliminate some of the bulk if you press that open. And also pressing them both the same way means that this seam is going that way and this seam is going this way. So then when we fold those together to join them, we can see that the seams nest together nicely, and that will help the points in the middle to be able to match better. And in the center of this, as you're going through, there's a lot of bulk of fabric there, so just take it slow as you go through. Don't try to go through at full speed. So now we're going to press this, and this seam is, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. This seam I'm going to press open. And the reason why I'm going to press this open is just because there's so many seams in bulk, especially in the middle point where they all meet. There's so much fabric there that if it's pressed to one side, it would just have a big lump in there. So pressing the seam open will help alleviate some of that. So now that we've assembled the pinwheel, we can see the rest. This is just a 9-patch block. It doesn't look exactly like a 9-patch block, but it is 3 across and 3 down. So we're just going to join these into rows and then join the rows together. So we'll start by stitching these 2 together. So I will do the same thing, fold them over and then take them to the sewing machine. So once we've joined the first 2 pieces, we're going to press them. And the pressing, on the top and bottom rows. That's easy. We're going to press toward the background square. And you can see in this middle piece where the flying geese is joining the pinwheel, there's a lot of bulk in that seam. So that's also why we press that seam open, because that eliminates the bulk in this seam as well. So I'm going to press this towards the pinwheel block because there's less bulk in this open seam. So this seam is pressed in and this seam is pressed out. So we're going to join the third piece in just the same way. So our 3 rows are done and they're pressed. So now we're just going to join the rows together to make the final block. And you can see, because of the way we pressed our seams, they just nest together nicely. So once the 3rd row is added, we're just going to do a final press. And there we have it, Martha Washington block. Now this is a complex block, but if you just take it a bit at a time, first just figure out the split half square triangle, make those, then do flying geese, then putting it together is going to be pretty simple at the end. So now we've done this block, you're ready to move on to start assembling your twinkle sampler, whether you picked the table topper or the throw quilt or the bed size quilt. But you can do that, or you could just make a whole quilt just with this Martha Washington block. That would be really nice too. This block is 12.5 inches square, so you can use it in a lot of different applications. If you want more information about this, or you want other great tutorials, ideas, and inspiration, check out epidastudio.com. Bye!